uncanny about the whole thing.
Hi guys, I'm Val.
Hi. I think my reading slump is close to being broken. I don't know. I think that depends on what you classify as a reading slump. But I did finish a book. Maybe that classifies as it being broken. This is The Looking Glass Wars by Frank Vetter. It is a rewrite of Alice in Wonderland, where basically Alice is the princess of Wonderland and she has to run away to escape her Aunt Red. She falls into the pool of tears and that takes her, squirts her out on 1857 London, and she talks with Lewis Carroll, and I thought it was really clever. although I did, I wish there was more. It was such a quick read, and I know that I know that it is a young adult, so I know that it's not necessarily meant to be complicated, but I just felt like the author was zipping through the things so quickly. Like, even if they had had just a few more descriptors, like because I felt like by the time that I understood what was going on in one scene, they had moved on to the next scene, and suddenly I was needing to readjust and reabsorb. I just wanted more, because like I loved the storytelling, I loved the characters, I loved the setting and the ideas presented. The ideas didn't get the descriptions that I wanted when I was reading it. I have the second one coming in the mail. Hopefully that will come soon, and I will be able to read it. So that's what I meant earlier about like what you classify as a reading slump, because like, what do you mean? I finished a book. I still feel like I'm in a reading slump though. I still feel like not encouraged to start the next book, not encouraged to open the next chapter. You know, that reading slump vibe where like it's not the book, it's just everything. But I'm pushing through it. I'm being very good. The Looking Glass Wars did help. And so I have a couple books that I have picked up recently. The Bridge on the Drina by Ivo Andrejic. A fictional story about a real place, a real bridge in Bosnia. It's the history of this bridge in Bosnia, and which has been a small country in the midst of many of political turmoil. And so it titles its generational stories that exist and revolve around this life-giving bridge. Only 23 pages in, so it is very slow going. Next, I picked this up because I have actually been dying to read this since I bought it back in October, but I was like, well, it's not spring, so I can't read it. This is Spring by Karl Ove Knausgaard. This is a story about a man who's talking to his youngest daughter, chronicling many life lessons into the story of his own personal life. I picked it up though for the prose because I opened it and the writing is phenomenal. The writing is beautiful. This is the literal first sentence. You don't know what air is, yet you breathe. You don't know what sleep is, yet you sleep. You don't know what night is, yet you lie in it. You don't know what a heart is, yet your own heart beats steadily in your chest, day and night, day and night, day and night. You are 3 months old, and as if swaddled in routines, you lie on a bed of sameness through the days. For you don't have a cocoon like the larvae do. You don't have a pouch like the kangaroos. You don't have a den like the badgers or the bears. You have your bottle of milk. You have the changing table with wet nappies. And you have the pram with the pillow and the duvet. You have your parents' large, warm bodies. Surrounded by all this, you grow so slowly that no one notices, least of all yourself. For first you grow outwards, by gripping and holding on to things around you with your hands, your eyes, your mouth, your thoughts, thereby bringing them into being. And only when you have done this for a few years and the world has been constituted do you begin to discover all that grips you, and you grow inwardly too, towards yourself. And that's just what the whole book has been like. It's been stunning, stunning, stunning prose. I've been doing okay. I've been doing a lot better actually recently. I feel like sometimes these days it's just so easy to get so dark, like so fast. You know, 0 to 100 really quick. And there's just no in between. I'm either, wow, the world is beautiful and there are things to be hopeful for and worth living for, or I am my own pit of despair that laughs as I torture myself. But, you know, I'm trying not to torture myself on purpose, at least. I've been seeing my friends a lot lately, way more than I did at the beginning of the year, and being an adult as a friend is so weird. It is, and for so many reasons. I saw a friend, a longtime friend that I've only ever met once, but, you know, longtime internet friend today, and we got some dinner and some ice cream, and I feel like it's so easy to forget why friends of all levels are important. I mean, like, obviously you want people close to you, you want those trusted, but I think it's easy to forget and in turn not be as grateful as we should be to non-close friends, to the friends who simply exist in your proximity. They're not actively involved in your life because, you know, they live far away, they're an internet friend, they're busy, they're working, you know, on themselves, whatever reason, but they are still there. They like your posts and comment and give you book recommendations, and I think it's so beautiful to have friends at that level. People that you're in community with, that are attached to you, that are close to you but in a different way. These people that stick around even though we don't keep them in our daily lives. It's a special balance of closeness and yet objectivity in a way, when your friends are closely involved with you, you know, they're closely involved with the things that are going on, but the friends that aren't that close to you, that don't know the specifics of what's going on, can still bring just as much enlightenment, just as much joy, just as much to your life as the close friends do. And I think without those friends that exist in your outer perimeter, there's so much less definition to the world around you, so much less understanding and perspective. The people that you're close to, you're friends with because you're similar, because you get along, you go at the same pace, you have the same wavelength. And to be honored with relationships that are with people that don't necessarily fit that wavelength, but that still want to be around me, it's such a beautiful feeling. It's an affirming feeling, and it makes me feel like my love stretches across miles and miles and miles and miles. And so to think of all of the people in all of the different places that I've had the opportunity to love, whether that's up close or from afar, it's a wonderful thing. I'll continue to rediscover my love for the people around me. Gratitude for the people that I love is a gift to myself.
Little buttons.
I'm filming a video clip here if you want to go in the room.
Wait, I'm sorry, 1 second. What?
I'm filming a video clip here if you want to go in the other room.
Oh.
This is without the dust jacket, and it has that. So here's hoping another beautiful bear book. Like right next to each other. I'm literally gonna read this all in one go. There's no way. I'm so excited to know what happens next, because the reason I picked this up is I read this when I was little, like maybe like the 5th grade. Like my teacher read the first book to us. I've never finished the series. I've never known the end. I only know the first book, so I'm really excited.
Can I help you? I can't pet you because you're on my arm. But, you know, that works. $100 pages left. Really good. Definitely not as good as the first one so far still. It's not as gripping. It took that setup a long time, maybe like 150 pages to like complete itself. That was kind of harder to get through. It wasn't as exciting, but after all the pieces were set into place, then I was able to really get into it, and now I'm very looking forward. It's 3 in the morning and I can't keep reading even though I really want to. Happy to be reading again.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places, worn out faces.
I am on the 3rd book, Arch Enemy. This one is so much better than the second one. The second one was definitely a step down from the first one. The first one has, you know, obviously the original idea, the second book slump I guess is what they call it. This, I'm like 80 pages into it. It's the exact same number of pages as the second one, but I'm already enjoying it a billion times better, which I'm really glad about, because I was like worried it was gonna keep going downhill, but no, he's definitely wrapped it up and brought it back. It's just the second book slump. Can't escape them all. I think especially with like YA and middle grade, the second book slump tends to be there a lot. Okay. Yay! I finished the series. I like the grit. And this has a little bit of grit, but not the level of grit that you would get if it were an adult series. And I wanted those details. That was the only place where it really fell short for me, was because I kept wanting more details about things. They would introduce concepts, or they would say, oh, this is how this works, and I would want more details. I wanted the world to be explored in more depth, because I was enjoying it so much. So many blank spaces in between that I as the reader had to fill in. And I could see how maybe if you were a young reader, how that might make it kind of a confusing story, because you don't necessarily have the experience to fill in all of those blanks and understand all of those things that weren't explained. That's how big the gaps in the details are here. But I thoroughly enjoyed my entire reading experience. I really did. It was, it got me out of a reading slump, and that's hard. I feel like every reading slump I'm in, it's a gamble what will get me out of it, and I just have to keep trying and throwing books away until I eventually find something that sticks, and thankfully these stuck. I mean, I devoured them in like 2 weeks. They were an easy read, just left filling in those gaps. Just, moved it down. It's probably, the series as a whole is probably a 3.5. I liked the first and the last one the best. The second one kind of fell flat to me, so the second one would probably be a 2.5. But still really great. And now they can look all pretty on my bookshelf, because they look lovely.
I didn't know this when I started. This is the third book in his series that he did. He did all the seasons, and this is the third one. So I ordered the first one, which is Autumn. It's very beautiful. These are gorgeous copies together. They arrived! Look how beautiful, look how beautiful, look how... Oh my god. Carl Ove Knausgaard, amazing. His writing is amazing. The prose, it so frequently switches back and forth from descriptions of mundane memories or experiences into deep philosophical ponderances of the way that life is, and it's like a condensing of these massive, wonderful, amazing things that we experience in our daily life actually down into words, which is a rare experience. It's stunning. It's wow. I'm so enjoying reading this.
I was awed and shocked and felt it was, and why such a thing stood alone in such a place. I walked around it and read over the door in German, Countess Dollendinga of Graz in Styria, sought and found death. Sought and found death, 1801. On top of the tomb, seemingly driven through the solid marble, where the structure was composed of a few vast blocks of stone, was a great iron spike, or stake. On going to the back, I saw, graven in great Russian letters, "The dead travel fast." There was something so weird and uncanny about the whole thing that it gave me a turn and made me feel quite faint. I began to wish, for the first time, that I had taken Johann's advice. Here, a thought struck me, which came upon almost mysterious circumstances and with a terrible shock. This was Walpurgis Night. Walpurgis Night, when, according to the belief of millions of people, the devil was abroad, when the graves were opened and the dead came forth and walked. When
Fullness. Fullness is another word for richness. It means an abundance of something, more of the same thing, but the overall sum is still something more than an accumulation of individual parts. Something arises out of fullness. When we talk about fullness of meaning, for instance, we are not thinking of sharply contrasting logical opposites, not some neat bouquet of arguments. For fullness is the antithesis of logic, the enemy of limitation, the friend of endlessness. No, by fullness of meaning we mean that feeling of intensity which arises in us when we stand in front of a work of art, or read a book. That very particular sense of more, or of much, which cannot be traced back to some single aspect of the work, but rather radiates out from all of its parts, where it is precisely the number of parts and the parity between them that gives rise to this feeling. For example, the different shades of blue in a painting. Simply looking at them can elevate one's state of mind and bring the soul into contact with something that is felt to be essential. But what is this essential something? The color blue? How and in what way does it produce meaning? And in such abundant quantities? We will never know the answer, since the question of meaning belongs to another order than meaning itself. The question of meaning is like a vessel, while the meaning is like water. If we pour the water into a vessel, it changes form, but reflecting about this form will not bring us any closer to the essential nature of water. If next we pour the water into a differently shaped vessel, it will take another shape with equal naturalness. In art, meaning stands in the same relation to thought as water does to its vessel. And perhaps the distinguishing feature of art is precisely this fullness. Perhaps fullness is the guiding principle from which art springs. What is certain is that our ways of evaluating art are connecting with our ways of seeing our surroundings. As, for example, when we find that a work of art is shallow, or on the contrary deep, even though the external similarities between, say, a volume of poems and the water in the bay are few. That the outside world in this way gives shape to the inner, and that art is merely a feeble reflection of reality might have been a depressing thought, as grain fields are flattened by rain or hail in the summer, since it makes us so earth and place-bound, so claustrophobically shut up inside sameness. If it hadn't been for the richness of this sameness, which opens up the world, even in its smallest part, towards the infinite. Every summer, when the grain is ripe and I drive past the fields where I live, on narrow asphalt roads winding their way through the blazing landscape, so dry and golden, for a long time perfectly still, even the wind turbines are motionless, and the trees with their dense curtain of green leaves seem to stretch themselves toward the deep blue sky, until the wind rises and everything is set in motion, and a wave seems to pass through the landscape. This is what I think about. If only one could write like that. I am here to announce that I have successfully conquered Mr. Karl Ove Knausgaard's seasonal collection, I guess. I don't know if there's a full name for this, but I have winter, autumn, spring, and summer. After months of ponderance, because I feel like that's what these books have inspired in me, I have finally finished all 4 of them. I started in spring reading, and I read winter, autumn, and spring, and then I just finished in the beginning of summer. I still haven't composed all my thoughts because I just barely finished it, and I was so excited to sit down and to chat about it that, you know, I haven't gotten to compose my thoughts completely. This is a semi-autobiographical series about Mr. Karl Ove Knausgaard. It is a basically open letter that he is writing to his 4th daughter during the time in which she is in the womb, and then all the way to the 2nd year that she is born. And like I said, it's his fourth daughter, so it's not a ponderance on new fatherhood, it's not a ponderance on fatherhood itself. It is a ponderance on children, because he talks very much about how children make him think about the way that the world works and why the way the world works, and it makes him question so many things. And God, this man described going and getting a colonoscopy, and it was poetic. Like, I am blown away by how eloquent every single sentence that he wrote was. So I guess the same author, he wrote a series called My Struggle, which is another semi-autobiographical series, more so about him, I would guess. But that's what he's famous for, and this is just his most recent body of work. My heart is touched, my brain is massaged, my soul is seen after reading these. And it's so interesting because, like, he's a man from Norway, I believe. Man from Norway with 4 kids, who's a professional creative and has been his whole life. You know, I just feel like, compared side by side, my life and his life do not have that much in common. But the beats of his life that he describes, the ups and the downs, the harsh bits and the soft bits, and the way that they cohesively come together, it feels familiar. It feels full of gratitude, even though he can be very cynical. He can be very cynical, and maybe that is why I also enjoy it, because I think sometimes cynics just give up and say, ah, it is what it is, you know. But he is pushing, like, he's trying so hard not to be a cynic, and I'm proud of him. You can see all of my tabs in every single book. So for the first 2 entire books, Winter and Autumn, they are solely vignettes. 1 to 3 pages, thoughts on something. He has one like on lawn sprinklers and on slugs, and like just little vignettes on specific things in his life that he is trying to communicate to his daughter. The way that he feels, the way that he thinks, the way that he believes about things. And those 2 were fun. I do think Autumn itself dragged a little long. Spring changes the format, and it becomes a cohesive, almost like diary, like train of thought. His entire writing style is very train of thought, but Spring itself, the whole entire book is journalistic type entries, you know, talking about their day-to-day, because that is where he has a more direct problem to address. Summer, which I'm so surprised, but actually turned out to be my favorite, is a combination of the 2. So it alternates between small vignettes about random things that have philosophical meaning, because he writes the philosophical meaning into them. And then it switches to his diary entries of the months of summer, and his train of thought that you follow in him throughout his journey. And that was my favorite one because of the combination of styles, but I don't think that the combination of the styles would have had as much impact and impressed me as much had I not experienced both the other types of writing style individually in the earlier books. It is a window into something that is much bigger and much more meaningful and deeper than any writing could ever describe it. It's not a complete story. There's no beginning or an end, because with your family there's not really a beginning or an end. There's just a progenitor. There's somebody that will take over after you're gone. And wow, that's such an impactful way of writing. One that I never personally thought that I would enjoy so much, but I do enjoy it. I really enjoy it. Oh, this is the accomplishment of my year, truly and honestly, because I was not expecting the 1 book commitment, the 160 page book commitment of Spring to turn into this. It was like the most beautiful mountain to conquer, genuinely and truly. The beginning of summer has been pretty good, but there's always something inside of me that just seems to want more. And then when I get more, I want more of something else. And accepting satisfaction, that's what I'm looking for. Accepting satisfaction, to me, is often more difficult than you know, working towards a goal or trying to reach or accomplish something. There are almost times when I properly use my time, when I am so productive for like a really long time, I get everything that I need done, I don't feel satisfaction, I feel guilt, because I imagine all the things that I could have done if I had not wasted time in my past. Like how far ahead that I could be if I had not wasted so much. That's what Anthony Bourdain used to talk about, that his need to satisfy every urge was what drove him crazy, because there was always more. He always needed something else, and I don't think I am that extreme. But satisfaction should not gnaw at your heart. And so I'm just trying to figure out where I am going wrong. How do I end up here with this tainted form of satisfaction instead of this beautiful reward being given for my effort and hard work. I think that's what these books also got me thinking about, because he talks very much about how his habits as a writer are fundamental to his creative experience and how they inhibit his experiences of other things. Not in a way where he thinks that it's wrong, but in a way that he thinks that he should think it's wrong. It just got me thinking, Mr. Malsgaard. He really got me thinking. Go take the look at me. Wow. Have a good night. Have a good day. Morning, week, month, year, life, if I never see you again. And like, comment, subscribe.